Rahubat, and welcome to another continued reading of The Mind, inscribed by Panabab Yanun. This is part 4. Scroll 15, El Khulug, the Creator, 19 times 10 equals 190. Lo, if someone were to ask, why Yahweh El Elo, El Khulug, he who is the source, the Creator is one, he or she might answer that if there were creators, Elohim, or Allahumma, for this incident on earth, one cannot always design his creation like the others. Neither would they go by the same principles. So we have a creator for many creators, 24 in the Garden of Eden, 12 agreeable, 12 disagreeable, give you will. El Elo, from the Elohim. In order for one to preside, it would be necessary for the other to perish in this state or step down to his or her leadership, making him a supreme, Al-Malik, the king, or Al-Malik al-Mulki, the king of kings, the angel over all angels, he who appointed the 7 archangelic beings, the Al-Malaikat, or Malakut. He, El-Elo, is a being as Allah. He is Allahu al-Azim, Allah, the supreme being. The will of one or the others must manifest the wish of both, or neither one would be possible. And this would be a sign of frustration. And obviously, he or she who is responsible for the intricate creation of all things of this cycle of refilling and replenishing the earth is beyond frustration and alone in his power as Yahuwah or Yahweh, YHWH, one of the Yahwehans and Elohim. Only the All is the Absolute, and all creators are in the All. Ya Allah, Rab, Jesus, Horus, Tammuz, Yahweh, Jehovah, God, Dios, Buddha, Confucius, Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, Deus, Tammuz, Baal, Adonai, Om, Osiris, and all the others are in the All. As it stands, the universe is a very measured place, wherever things fit within a particular pattern, and in the design of all things is an obvious unity that could not be possible if more than one creator took responsibility for all creation. Each creator is assigned by the All to be the one creator or creators with one head, as the angels with one deity about them all. For there is life beyond earth, and new forms being discovered every day. So you, Muhammad, say in the 2nd chapter of El's Quran, chapter 2, verse 87, originally chapter 87, the 163rd verse, and Ilahukum, your El, Allah, source is Wahidhu, one, Ilahun, Ilaha, Allah, El. Don't make for him any partners. El's Torah given to Moshe, also called Moses, Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. Or you say, you shall have no other gods before me, El's Torah to Moshe, also called Moses, Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. I am a jealous God, El's Torah to Moshe, also called Moses, Exodus chapter 34, verse 14. That means there is more than one, and you're not to use but one. If thou art a Muslim, you use Allah or Rab. If thou art a Hebrew or Israelite or Jew, you use Yahweh or Elohim or Adonai or Hashem. And if thou art a Buddhist, you use Buddha. But if you're one deity, yet are in the All. All religions and their one God each are in the All. Therefore, all sincere spiritual and righteous people know with strong conviction that the Creator is powerful, has no associates in that power. So he is called the most powerful, the most merciful, the most gracious. To be the most of anything means their other Allah is Akbar, or as they say, the greatest. that he is greater than others like himself. Everything inside of the all is a servant, has no equal, no consort, and no partners, because all is in the all. You can't take from it, and you can't add to it. The all has neither beginning nor end. The all is. The all has always existed and will exist, because the all is outside of existence. All exists in the all. The out is outside time, for time exists in the all. The all did not begin. The all can not end. Allah is the beginning, Al-Awul, and Allah is the ending, El-Akhur, the Alpha and the Omega. If you are the beginning, you have a beginning. If you are the ending, then you have an ending. The all is without beginning or ending. The appointed one, who appointed and anointed Tammuz, who is Horus, and Yahshua, Jesus. In the depth of ignorance and backwardness, people sought help from objects made by their own hands. Khnum, creator of the Ka, which yields the Ba and Akh. An Enocyte wanted to reduce the creator to his or her own level. But how could an object or an Enocyte be responsible for all the creation? So to assert that an Enocyte was responsible, or that the universe accidentally came into being, thrives on absence of logic and abundance of ignorance. The Elohim, by permission of El-Elo, the Most High, the Fashioner, gave electric charge to the protons and electrons, designed the minute solar system of the atom like the one in which we live. 76 trillion years ago, gave light its speed, 186,272 feet per second, put a barrier around sound, 1,100 feet per second, blessed the golden sun, Ra, with enough mass to create the gravitation that keeps the heavenly abodes of this solar system orbiting properly. El-Elo, the Most High, is the Fashioner. There's a reason why 75% of the planet Earth and 70% of the human body consists of water. The Creator put that balance there. Can you begin to overstand it? When the oceans of the worlds all come rushing towards the shore, who synchronizes it? If the world's waterways were to cease moving, how would fish breathe? El-Elo, the Fashioner, started the waters moving, and it has yet to stop on its journey home. Water is always moving towards larger masses of water. I could tell you something that would be real fascinating, but it's very simple. One thing that's unique, water is unique. Let me tell you something unique about water. Water is a symbol of personification. It is in the atmosphere. You don't see it, it's water vapor. It goes from what is considered invisible, a vapor, to a liquid, to a solid, to ice, to hot ice, to gas. Ask yourself, what makes up water? You're trying to think of an answer in order to look like you know something. You forgot. I said I wanted to tell you something. See, it's the obvious abstract. What is a symbol of personification? It's unseen. You don't see it. Then there's vapor, steam, condensation over frozen hot ice. Where did it come from? And where is it going? The mystery of water is that it's always going home, to water. Water never stays anywhere water is not. If I put it on the ground, it will evaporate or seep into the ground, seeking out or seeping. It is always going home to water. It is pumping out of a source, looking for a source of water. Look at it in a test tube. Leave it for hundreds of years. It will constantly be moving and on the move, but it will eventually go back home to water. The molecule turned inside out. Thus, the restless soul of a human is 3/4 water. Your brain, the blood, the breathing, the digestive system, the circulatory system, the respiratory system, urine, light, pulse, blood. This is the restlessness of the human body. You see, there's only one real thing in existence: change. And the only thing constantly changing is water. And where is the home of water? I told you, at the beginning, home is a vicious cycle. Water is pumping out of a source, looking for the source of water. You used to know these things. When you had your barytheric gland, you knew these facts. And this just shows how out of touch you all are. The barytheric gland resides inside the hippocampus area of the brain, which is a cavity of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is located at the lower part of the brain and is attached to the brain stem. The barytheric gland has connections with the appendix and the tonsils. The hippocampus is the tissue which held the barytheric gland when it was once inside Cadman, Zakar, Adams, the grandfather of Enos' brain. Although conscious perceptions does not occur in the cerebellum, this is the part of the brain that is responsible for hallucinations. Also, cerebellar reactions are unconscious, meaning you are unaware that it happened. And that's why even though the barytheric gland is missing, portions of the gland were left on the nerve's ending, because total removal would have damaged the nerve from the cerebellum. You had 7 senses: see, feel, hear, taste, smell, clairvoyance, telepathy. Holy Tablet, Chapter 7, Tablet 1, verse 10 through 13 says, originally you had what is called Neter Taten, the 7 senses that could activate 7 higher senses, and then even higher until you ascend back into divinity. But you are trapped by 1 sense, touch, which is multiplied by deception to 5. Humans do not have the 4 higher senses: mind perception, intuition, mental communication, telepathy, object reading, psychometry, and clairsight, to see in other dimensions, clairvoyance. But with the removal of the barytheric gland, you lost access to Pa-Nataru, the overseers. Then you became Enocytes. An Enocyte is a human being, is a forgetful being, which is what happened when the barytheric gland was removed. When you get back your power, we have to show you how to use it, but we have to control it. You have to prove your sincerity before it is returned to you, otherwise you may misuse it. The barytheric gland will be reinserted into those persons worthy of returning home when the Elohim come to them. August 12, 2003 to June 26, 2030 AD. Watch for May 5th, 2000 AD for the alignment. When this gland is reinserted, it will not be in the hippocampus part of the brain this time, but in the lower chin, referred to as the submental area, meaning the sub or lower, and mental, that which reacts to the mind or with the mind. Remember, Enocyte, El-Elo is himself. If he wills, he can destroy this entire galaxy in a moment. And if he wills, recreate it in an instant. Nothing is too difficult for him, for this has already happened. An individual should observe and stand awed by the many wonders that El-Elo has fashioned. He or she has to acknowledge their Elohim's greatness, and Enocyte has to submit to the supremacy of the ones who procreated them. Final analysis: Sir Isaac Newton, the British scientist, once had a skillful mechanic who made him a miniature replica of the solar system, with balls representing the planets, geared together by cogs and belts so as to move in harmony when cranked. Later, Newton was visited by a scientist friend who did not believe in the all. Their conversation is related to the Minnesota technology. One day, as Newton sat reading in his study with his mechanism on a large table near him, his infidel friend stepped in. Scientist that he or she was, he or she recognized at a glance what was before him. Stepped up to it, he or she slowly turned the crank, and with undisguised admiration watched the heavenly bodies all move in their relative speeds in their orbit, standing off a few feet, he or she exclaimed, "My, what an exquisite thing this is. Who made it?" Without looking up from his book, Newton answered, "Nobody." Quickly turning to Newton, the infidel said, "Eventually you did not understand my question. I asked, who made this?" Looking now, Newton solemnly assured that nobody made it, but that the aggregation of matter so much admired had just happened to assume form it was in. But the astonished infidel replied with some heat, "You must think I am a fool. Of course somebody made it, and he or she is a genius, and I'd like to know who he or she is." Laying his book aside, Newton arose and laid a hand on his friend's shoulder. "This thing is but a weak imitation of a much grander system whose laws you know, and I am not able to convince you that this mere toy is without a designer and maker. Yet you profess to believe that the original from the design is taken and has come into being without either designer or maker. Now tell me, by what sort of reasoning do you reach such an incongruous conclusion? Echo the word of all the news bearers, wise men, astronomers, sages and saints. La ilaha illa el-kulum. Nothing would exist by way of the all. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul." Scroll 16. Freedom, reality, truth. 19 times 5 equals 95. Lo, in their subtle or pure form, the 5 basic elements combine in definite proportions to form gross elements. It is these gross elements upon which the existence of Tiamat, or Ki, the planet which ye call Earth, depends. While this view may not seem to correspond exactly with modern science, by following the essence of the thought behind it, one gains insight into the intricate relationship between matter, the physical plane, and spirit, the spiritual plane. According to the doctrine of quintupulation, each gross element is made up of 1/2 of its corresponding pure element, and 1/8 of each of the 4 other subtle elements, the plane of force and manifestation at this level. An example of this can be seen clearly in the chart of gross Earth, in which the Earth is composed of subtle earth, and 1/8 each of subtle ether, subtle air, subtle water, and subtle fire. It can be seen that each element, when quintupulated, is not pure, but contains a portion of each of the other elements. Quintupulated, and defined by the American Heritage Dictionary, means multiplied by 5, 5-fold, being the 5th of a set of 5 identical copies. Quintuplicate, one of a set of 5 identical things, a set of 5 copies, from Latin, quintus, 5th. Each quintupulated element produces a special effect according to its predominance. Each contains qualities of the other, and has a particular function in nature and in insight. Further, each of these elements has 5 properties. These properties are based upon the interaction of the subtle elements within the gross elements, in total 25 in number. In order to better understand this, let us examine the properties associated with quintupulated ether. The 5 properties of ether are grief, desire, anger, delusion, and fear, which are all generated in the ether, which belongs to the space of the heart. Remember, ether is 9 to the 9th power of 9, containing all, both agreeable and disagreeable, good and evil. Holy Tablet, Chapter 1, Tablet 1, verse 16 through 17 states, 9 ether is the combination of all existing gases of nature. Nothing anywhere can be as powerful as all existing gases. Therefore, 9 ether is the original creator who grew all the universe. Grief is that chief part of ether, and so is happiness, for which grieving the body feels like empty space. Desire is fleeting like the wind. Therefore, it belongs to that part of air found in ether. When anger arises, the body becomes hot. Anger belongs to that part of fire found in quintuplicated ether. Delusions is as pervasive as water, and belongs to that portion of water found in ether. Finally, when we are frozen with fear, the body becomes inanimated and statue-like. Thus, fear belongs to that earth principle. The remaining 20 properties can be understood in a similar manner. Although the emotions are actually attributes of the spiritual body, they are treated as if they belong to the physical body. For this is where the influences are directly perceptible, because the emotions belong to the ether portion of the quintuplicated elements. They cannot be the self, which breeds selfishness. They are negated, and identification with them is not possible. Say, I am not these emotions. I am not this body. I am not these actions. I am above, observing, controlling, witnessing. Abandon the idea of I-ness and my-ness and identity with the imperishable atom, you, which is entirely different from the 5 elements, which is the knower, seer, Ra, and witness of all these products. The physical body is reduced to nothing as it is analyzed and all temporary qualities are removed. It is merely a product of the 5 elements, and there are 25 combinations. Modern scientists and doctors only understand the gross attributes of the body. The 5 elements and 25 properties are mere limiting adjuncts. Ka and Ba produces the Akh. When the body is stripped of them, Amun. That which remains is you, or the self, Aten. One must learn not to identify with these quintuplicated elements that make up the 5 sheaths. The body is fictitious play of illusion and ignorance. Attachment to it is bondage. Accepting the principle of see, hear, taste, smell, and feel is illusion. There is more to it than that. You must overcome the 3 laws of confinement to the spell of ignorance: person, places, and things. These 3 blind your inner self to the outer world. The world that's bigger than body, called ecology. The surrounding bind the deity, you. But what you think you want and need, and all you need is to know you don't need things to be happy. By negating the idea of possessiveness and attachment to its illusory qualities, one can achieve emancipation, freedom. Ignorance is responsible for all misunderstanding and for all dissension. Only true spiritual aspirants can transcend it by long, hard discipline and by practice. Because of ignorance, the common insight could not understand. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John chapter 8, verse 32. When you hear the statement, I and my Father are one, it meant by eliminating body, name, and external qualifications, we would eventually merge with the source from which ye all came, the all. For if you look at what's called your 5 senses, which are see, hear, taste, smell, and feel, you eliminate most by a good look at them. To taste, things must touch your taste buds. To smell, things must touch your olfactory nerve and your upper passage of your nose. To see, light must touch the optic nerve. To hear, sound waves must touch the auditory nerve. To feel is to touch the nerve fibers, which carry them to the impulses to your spinal cord, then to your brain. So you see here, 5 becomes 1. You can become one thing. Places are things, and things exist. And existence must be felt. It is all an illusion. The 7th plane is the doorway to the all, the highest plane. Many assume that these words applied only to Yahshua and not to themselves. Very few understand his meaning. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Scroll 17, that thou art. 19 times 4 equals 76. Lo, O ye humim, blessed children of Panataru, the overseers. Don't thou knowest that a word and its meaning are linked by a thought wave? When the word fire is pronounced, the corresponding mind wave is energized and there is visualization of the concept. The reverse also takes place. When one sees a fire, the mental image gives rise to the corresponding verbal utterance, fire. This relationship between word and meaning can be simple or complex. It is simple when it generates the word's primary meaning. The sun is hot. If a child is asked to draw a leaf, he or she copies it from nature, but an artist will draw it indirectly. There are indirect relationships between words and meanings. In the statement, it is hot today, the implied meaning is that the sun is hot. Sometimes the direct meaning of a word is dispensed with and only the implied meaning is taken into account. The statement, "the house is on the river," does not mean that there is a house on the surface of the river, but on the bank of the river. The direct meaning of a flowing river is discarded, and the implied meaning on the bank is substituted. Although the river and its bank are quite different things, one being water and the other planet Earth, there is a spatial proximity which creates a relationship. The implied meaning is based on the direct meaning, which is then discarded. Sometimes both the direct and implied meaning are operative. Imagine if an Enocyte is at a horse show and asked, "Which horse is jumping?" He or she might receive the reply, "The white one is jumping." A color cannot jump. However, in this case, the direct meaning, white, refers to the implied meaning, horse, both of which are relevant to the sentence. The whole is understood to mean the white horse is jumping. Sometimes a portion of the direct meaning is retained and a portion is discarded. Assume that 10 years ago, a certain singer, Billy Paul, lived in Philadelphia and was last seen by a friend at Radio City Music Hall. Now imagine that this same friend sees him 10 years later as a wino in Atlanta, Georgia. He says, "This is the same Billy Paul." There is a certain discrepancy in this statement, for the word "this" refers to the singer Billy Paul as he was known before. It is associated with the idea of a successful professional person, dressed in a suit and separated in time and space by 10 years and 1,000 miles. Certain elements are contradictory and must be eliminated. A successful singer is not an unemployed wino. Atlanta, Georgia is not Philadelphia. And the streets of Atlanta, Georgia are not Radio City Music Hall, which is in New York City. Also, the period of 10 years cannot be equated with the time at which the statement was made. In the statement, "This is that Billy Paul," only a portion of the direct meaning of this and that is retained. The contradictory factor of time, space, and external appearance are eliminated, while Billy Paul himself, the person, remains. It is only the idea of a Billy Paul free of impermanent qualities, which is a non-contradictory. Only after the mind has gone through this complicated process, which it does in a flash, can this Billy Paul be identified with that Billy Paul. After this Billy Paul identifies with that Billy Paul. After the opposing association of name and form have been set aside, this is what remains. Billy Paul, the person, common to both, stands as the implied meaning. That thou art can be understood only in light of this kind of reasoning. That thou art does not refer to the direct meaning of the body. Name, form, clothes, location, status, time, and place are eliminated. Note, even benevolence, agreeableness, or goodness is binding. Chains may not be made of gold or iron. Nonetheless, they are chains. Most people misunderstood the body to their self. They cannot understand that thou art because they lack the patience to consider deeply the significance of the words. Words are double-edged weapons. If misunderstood, they will be detrimental to one's progress. Properly understood, they can carry one across the depths of ignorance. The significance of that thou art can be grasped only after long, detailed, and careful consideration. Then it will be apparent that the Enocyte was made in the Creator's image. It does not merely mean that El Elo, The Most High resembles a human being, for he also created the animal, birds, fish, in whose image are they. Being men was only thing created that was not called good. The Elohim saw that light, day, night, sea, animal are all good, but not man. Why? If he is in Elohim's image and likeness, why is it not said of his creation, it was good? Because it was not created good. You must become good. But also, one must look into an Enocyte and realize the Creator's nature is enshrined therein. The body is a temple. The head is the dome. The heart is the altar. The emotions, the religion, the soul, the preacher of the word of the Most High. You should be a word of truth, an abode of health and happiness. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Scroll 18, love. 19 times 2 equals 38. Lo, my child, true religion consists of more than ritualistic observances, baths, and pilgrimages, but in loving, cosmic love, all-embracing and all-inclusive. In the presence of pure love, all distinctions and differences, as well as all hatred, racism, jealousy, egoism, are dispelled, just as dirtiness is dispelled by the cleanliness. There is no knowledge higher than love. There is no treasure higher than love, because love is truth. Love is El-Elo, the Most High. One must strive to convert one's emotions into unconditional love for El-Elo, the Most High, which is neither binding nor selfish. The emotions, when channeled properly, can be used to attain freedom. One should transmute the lower emotions into unconditional emotions. Emotions are weaknesses and must not be equated with divine love, which manifests as peace and joy. The lower emotions are not suppressed, however, but are utilized and sublimated. Without emotions, there is no love. And without love, one cannot approach the infinite love that is. A child of Panatharu, the overseers, recognizes that both love and hate are the two most powerful driving forces in life, that both emotions are healthy and essential to life, and to possess only one love or hate and be deprived of the other is to be crippled as a bird with only one wing. But to hate another Enocyte is to hate yourself, and that too is fair, for there is times when you hate what you have done or done things you hate to do. A child of Panatharu, the overseers, realizes that both love and hate, in order to be constructive, must be directed in the proper channels, and to do otherwise is destructive and suicidal. I love peace. I hate war. I love happiness. I hate sadness. I love those who hate me. A child of Panatharu, the overseers, therefore makes a careful distinction between his or her loved ones and his or her enemies. Through the higher emotions, the devotee reacts out to the divine. With purification, the receptive heart receives the continual flow of divine love. The barrier between the individual soul and the supreme soul is the ego, the ever-present enemy. It manifests as feeling of separateness. Through purification, one does away with these feelings of separation, for in the ecstasy of pure love and devotion, the consciousness of the individual self is lost. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Scroll 19, the mind. 19 times 11 equals 209. Lo, O Nuwapians, I am about to take you on a journey of understanding, one of the best gifts that has been given to your species, and that is the mind. The mind is neither visible nor tangible. It exists not in the physical body, as does the brain, but in the spiritual plane, or what's called the mental plane. Its magnitude cannot be measured, for it carries all feelings, ideas, and impressions from this life, as well as intuitive knowledge of what is to come. It is the mind that must be corralled and controlled in order to achieve that true peace of union. The mind acts justly to its desires, and does not care about consequence. It thinks of some pleasant-looking or pleasant-tasting food and must have some. When warned of the poison it contains, the reaction is to disregard the warning, find some excuse, and eat it anyway. However, the self, pure consciousness, which is beyond the mind, which is read from the mental, is the witness of all that it perceived, the plane of truth, and about it, the plane of reality. But it neither acts nor reacts, for all actions and reactions take place in the mind, which received its info from the mental reservoir. Holy Tablets, Chapter 7. Appearing and arriving as thought waves to the mind. Thought, the most powerful force in the universe, initiates all actions in the brain. Activity carried out on Nasut, the physical plane, in which ye abode, is only a mirror of the inner workings of the mind, that which is assumed to be reality. The physical environment in which each person lives is only a projection of the mind. In truth, when the many mental modifications are resisted, one is no longer affected by the comings and goings of the world, and self shines forth in undisturbed purity. When the thought waves are still, the perceiver rests in his or her own true nature. That state of pure consciousness is achieved when the mind is no longer modified by the activities of thought waves. When the waves of a lake are still, one can see the bottom clearly. Likewise, when the thought waves of the mind subside, one's essential nature becomes evident. If it is disregarded, one can degenerate in fanaticism. If, on the other hand, it is transcended, the devotee's experiences the highest state of supreme devotional ecstasy. Your motivation should be the simple desire to love, to serve Panataru, the overseers. Only with this attitude will the ego disappear. One cannot attain liberation until all desires, including spiritual desires itself, have been burned. Pure peace is devoid of desires, ignorance, and emotions. 1. Desire. 2. Ignorance. 3. Emotions. The first letters, D-I-E, die, death. Pure love is love united by lust and is difficult to develop, encompassing a pure desire to touch and embrace his or her physical and astral form. This is encountered frequently in the poetry and writings of the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, the true mystic. If one Enocyte calls another a fool, it is only a verbalization, a vibration in the air. But what a thundering thought wave it creates. One simple, unreal word wreaks havoc, throwing the physical and emotional bodies into chaos, destroying all happiness and peace. One is not a fool because he or she is called a fool. If a person were called a donkey, he or she would not grow long ears and a tail. Yet, it is not unusual for people to react in anger to such statements, and in the process actually give validity to them. The mind attributes meaning to the words by which the delicate degree of difference of the words are perceived by any of the senses, or by the mind, giving them a false reality. Such reactions to meaningless vibrations is the cause of countless human troubles. Overreaction to words and jumping to conclusions are weaknesses of the mind. The thought waves must be restrained at all times. One must be particularly wary of praise, for this too is verbal delusion, and the ego is ever ready to pounce on any opportunity to see itself as better or different from others. Not everyone is going to feel the same way as one who bestows a compliment. Inevitably, the pendulum swings in the other direction, and criticism will be heard sooner or later. But true happiness should not rest on the praise or abuse, for in all conditions, your true essence is beyond qualities and beyond change. Just as water may become steam or ice, it still retains its underlying essence. The weaker a person is, the less restraints he or she has over verbal essence, then the mind is not concentrated. The perceiver identifies with its modifications. Then thought waves arise. There is the immediate tendency to identify with. The thought waves spawn a host of others. The mind is a slave to its preoccupations, identifying with the same problem wherever it is. The thought waves give rise to countless others, all in search of happiness. But in fact, it is only foolishness, for the very rising of the thoughts themselves destroys the peace that the mind craves. There are 5 types of thought waves, some of which are painful and some which are not. The 5 kinds of thought waves are right knowledge, erroneous overstanding, verbal delusion, sleep, memory, correct perception, interference, and competent testimony are proofs of correct knowledge. Right knowledge, that is, knowledge based on facts, can be proven in 3 ways, but none of the proofs may contradict one another. Examine yourself the next time that you are angry or miserable. Reason it out and note the modifications of the mind. Gaining freedom from verbal delusions is essential for strengthening the mind. This is the wisdom. I am a student of a great teacher. All right, put this in your heart. It is wisdom that I give to you. I am a student of a great teacher. I walk with the teacher. I talk with the teacher. I learn from the teacher. And of course, I learn to love the teacher. Eventually, an enemy comes and kills the teacher, correct? And it transforms me from a student to a revengeful man. And I get a new attribute. And I want revenge on the man or thing that killed my teacher. And I set out on a journey throughout the world, seeking out the man who killed the teacher, my teacher. And I am motivated by that purpose. I'm going to kill the man because he or she killed my teacher. That's why I'm doing it. I am not a killer by nature. I made myself a killer, and I have a justified reason now. I'm going to kill this man. Why will you kill this man? Because he or she killed my teacher, and that is my reason. That's my sole reason. So after long hunts and travels and pursuits, I finally cornered this man. You follow me? And I look him straight in his eyes as I take out my sword. The man has terror in his eyes because he knows how close he is to death. And as I raise the sword and I get the satisfaction of being able to end this quest and relieve myself of this anger towards this man who killed my teacher, and that is the reason why I'm going to kill this man. That is the only reason. Can you understand that? The man, in fright and terror, hawks and spits in my face. What do I do now? Should I walk away? If so, should you say, I pursued this man for 30 years, and now I finally got him cornered. The man who killed my teacher. He cut off my source of divinity or my connection with the divine, and I want to kill him for that purpose. For that purpose only, because he or she has interfered with my journey. What do I do when he or she hawks and spits in my face? Do you say, thank you? Yes, you say thank you. Why do I thank him? Because you have another reason to kill him. And if you kill him on behalf of yourself and not your teacher, you will be a killer and not an avenger. That's a thought. You have another reason to kill him. Something made you realize that it's stupid chasing him, to kill him just for spitting in your face. How did he or she make you realize that is stupid? What do you do when this man hawks and spits in your face now? You've already got your sword out, ready to chop his or her head off because he or she killed your teacher and cut off your source of divinity. Now he or she has the audacity to spit in your face? Do you kill him? Why would you kill him? Why wouldn't you walk away? I would walk away. Walking away would be right, but you don't know why you are right, and that makes it wrong. You are right. Just say, I walk away. I took my sword and put it away, and I turned around and walked away, and that's right. But you have to know why you're right, otherwise it's wrong. You don't understand. The reason why it's right is because my reason for pursuing this man all these years is because he or she killed my teacher, not because he or she spit in my face. I would have to leave this man and go back to where I started and regroup the reasoning. and now pursue him because he or she spat in my face. Otherwise, if I kill him, I become a killer for the wrong reasons. Thus, my justifications defeat themselves. The wisdom is the holy Enocyte was once insulted in front of his or her disciple by a non-believer who spat upon his face several times. Not one muscle twitched, nor did his calm facial expression change, because he did not identify with his physical sheath. His mind was centered in Pa Natharu, the overseers. Can you imagine the strength of that mind? No matter what was done to him, he responded with one thought, that of pure love. A true Elohim will not react in anger, for to him insult and praise are the same. Restraint of thought waves does not mean suppression. Suppression jams up violent emotions. For various reasons, people abuse, suppressing anger or pain by smiling and carrying a stiff upper lip. The restrained thought waves must be given an outlet and channeled into such uplifting activities as chanting, repetition, exercise, singing, and meditation on opposite and positive thoughts. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. This concludes part 4 from the reading of the mind. Stay tuned for part 5.